Hi, and welcome to Aperture Speaks. And this week what we're looking at is split toning in Lightroom. And split toning most people use when they are editing a black and white image to sort of add a bit of color to the black and white image, maybe to give it more of a vintage effect, maybe some sepia toning or something like this. But you can actually add color to, split toning to a color image. And the reason you do that is maybe to emphasize a certain feeling, a sort of emotion in an image, or to sometimes soften the shadows or soften the highlights. So I'm going to start with this image that I took on a lovely misty but sunny morning. In fact, you can actually have a morning like this. And I'm just going to quickly make some basic sort of adjustments to this particular image. It's quite a strong vivid image. It's very geometric, which I quite like. I'm going to increase the clarity a little bit there. What I'm going to do is actually increase the saturation and drop the vibrance down a little bit. Okay, and we'll move right, and I'll increase the contrast. Just like that. And then we'll move on to the split toning part. And the split toning can be found just here. Split toning works by using one color in the highlights and one color in the shadows, and these colors will sort of take over, sort of really tone what is already there in the image, and then you use the balance in the middle to either shift more towards the shadow colors or more towards the highlight colors. This means that if you're really deciding where the prominent color will be on the midtones, where the mixture will happen. So we're gonna start here with we'll start with shadows, and because I want to have this sort of like early morning sort of look, I'm gonna go with this sort of like a aquary blue, and also in the sort of morning light you do get this sort of like maybe more like a purple, but I don't want the purple so saturated, so let's drop that down there, just so it's like more of a glow of the purple. There are two ways you can choose your colors. One is using the slider across the top, and the other one is just to click into the color box and then pick your color like here. The colors go from red to red, so it's the whole spectrum, and then how much saturation of that color it has is controlled by the bottom or just by picking the color. And I'm probably going to balance just a little bit more towards the shadows a little bit. So if you see what happens if you go this way, what is more sort of a grayish color to begin, once more in sort of the gray area becomes the purple, and the other way it becomes the sort of blue. This blue is a little bit too aquary still, so I'm going to move it across a little bit more, and a little bit more, and that looks a bit better. Now getting more into the blues. Okay, now that looks alright, but I'm just going to add a bit of a vignette in here. And I'll let the vignette cut through there. Add quite a strong feathering. And the other thing I'll quickly do, because I've just suddenly realizing this is quite, the highlights still are quite strong here, just to pull this back in a bit, so we don't lose the sort of shapes we're getting here. Okay, and for this image, that's the sort of split toning effect that I would do. Now, of course, not all images need to have this effect. This effect sort of gives this sort of morning, this like sort of Monday morning feeling when you're looking out in this sort of blue and purple and monochrome out there in the world. I possibly just maybe selectively reduce the saturation, on the yellow orange there, because that's probably a bit too strong still, and a little bit on this green bit just here. But really, that's how I would sort of leave this image. So what we'll do is I'll look at another image for you and sort of show you a different technique. So here I am with my new image, and this one in particular, it's a little bit harder to sort of tone this one. I like the subject. I like the two ladybirds like snuggled up in the tree, but in the background, it's not really fresh. It's not really green. It's not really vibrant. It's very sort of like grayish and stuff. And this is one of those times when a split toning would really help the image quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is quickly just crop the image down to a nice pleasing size. I'm going to go over squares because it all sort of fits nicer compositionally. I've got nice sort of triangle shapes, which are all sort of pushing your eye down into the ladybirds. I'm just going to up the exposure a little bit. Increase the contrast, move the whites a bit here, blacks a bit here. Just play around this a little bit more here. Now, one of the things we're going to be doing in this toning is be playing really with the greens to sort of make the green slightly more stronger. But at the same time, I'm also going to warm up the image a bit. But I don't want to lose the saturation of the ladybug. So I'm going to use the picker here and just pull the saturation up. What it also is going to do is just sort of going to increase the saturation here as well. But that's something which I'm just going to have to live with. So now come down to the split toning, and so the first one we need is some warmth at the top. Okay, and the shadows we actually need a sort of a greenish color, and what we need is something a bit like a teal. And so I'm just going to try and find a sort of tealish color. I'm not that great actually with names of colors, and I sort of know colors that I like. I'm not too good on actual color names. I think that comes from like painting bedrooms and stuff when you have weird names for colors. So you can see just now, just by looking at this image without really sort of affecting it too much, is that we've got a really, really strong green, and the highlights have sort of warmed up part of the image. The only thing I sort of say is a negative at this point is that it looks a bit vintage, to them like sort of in quotation marks. And that's because the shadows have really, the color of the shadows has really been softened. So just need to find a good balance between them. I would probably go a bit more heavy to the warmth, and then now play around just with the saturation of some of the colors. Maybe just bring the saturation of the green back down a bit. Some luminance as well. And then also it could be that maybe this is a bit too strong, or this isn't strong enough. This needs to be a little bit weaker. Okay, and here we are. So really the problem is here, so let's pull this back down. Make this a little bit weaker. So we still have this nice, fresh, vibrant green in the background. If we compare that to what we had before, which was more of a purples and greys, and it's just sort of colored that in and sort of made it more appealing. Now put that back up again to 0. Of course, you could just do with a little bit maybe extra saturation on the ladybugs themselves. Just pull the saturation up. Probably won't pull the clarity up at all. And then just some general increase in contrast as well. And a little bit of clarity. And this is really just to darken those shadows back down again. So here you are with the teal. I would now just add a little bit of a crop. The reason, sorry, a vignette. The reason I add a little bit of a vignette, not too much, is because we have just softened the shadows. So this is just to sort of reinforce the black, so we can actually see the contrast. So general saturation. Not too much. Okay, and that image actually doesn't look too bad now. If you take the split toning, for example, The split toning has really brought in the vibrance into this background, so you have a more of a green, feeling more of a fresh feel than this sort of more magenta in the background there. It has sort of also taken some warmth and made the branch a little bit colder. But these are things you can sort of play around with as well, using adjustment brushes just to sort of get something a little bit different. You just want to warm something up, bring some more bit more color back into certain areas. You can do that with just in a quick adjustment brush like that, and it won't actually take that long to really see the effects in certain areas. So you just warm that up, and there you go. You got that sort of slightly more branchy color back, but you still kept the background the way it is. So I hope you enjoyed the video and seeing how you can use split toning. Really, it's a case of experimentation to finding what is the best options. Generally, you would use the shadows to sort of soften the shadows or to try and change the overall color in the shadow range, and the same with the highlights as well. There is certain mixtures which do work well together. Sort of cold shadows, warm highlights create some quite nice images. Also remember, it's just when you're doing split toning to also try and preserve or colors which are already there and tones which are already there. So for example, with the ladybug, I added extra saturation to that so that it wasn't swamped in the change in the overall tone with the split toning. You can follow me at blog, which is aperture64.wordpress.com. You can catch me on Twitter, which is @aperture64, and you can also catch me on Facebook, which is facebook.com/aperture64. Until next week, goodbye.